Walt asked the question, what do you do with the difficult emotion? And it's such an important question because in our lives we often encounter very difficult emotions. We're angry, or we're envious, or we're sad, or we're uncertain, we're anxious, we're wanting something to happen that's not happening, so therefore there's frustration. And therefore, what we do with this feeling, each of these feelings when they arise, becomes a very important part of our Dharma practice. The first thing to do is to acknowledge it. To acknowledge, oh, this is a difficult emotion. This is the great benefit of practicing mindfulness. You are aware of a difficult emotion when it arises, and you are able to recognize it as such because you have enough presence of mind. Even though there's a big storm around this particular emotion, you have this presence of mind that says, oh, this is a difficult emotion. And then you can proceed from there. A difficult emotion would be one manifestation of the Buddha's first noble truth, that there is suffering, that there is what he termed dukkha. Dukkha means dissatisfaction, unreliability, emotional and physical pain, all sorts of different connotations with this word dukkha, all having to do with the discomfort and the unreliability and unsatisfactoriness of life, of which a difficult emotion like anger or big, huge envy would represent. So therefore, you are feeling this anger when it's arisen, and you're aware of it, and you go, oh, this is anger. Anger feels like this. Thus the mindfulness. And knowing at that point, you're practicing the first noble truth, that you're willing to stay present in the face of difficulty, of difficult emotions, that you're willing to bear, you're willing to have your heart open, even in times when there's difficult emotions. You're not just going to succumb to them, you're going to stay present such that you can have a relationship to them. You know, it's called a noble truth, this first noble truth. And it's noble not because suffering's so great, it's noble because we are willing to bear it. The conscious bearing of a difficult emotion is a noble action. It's a noble action because you are staying present for what's going on in your mind, what's going on in your body, and in staying present, you have some degree of choice in how you respond to that difficult emotion. So many people in so many instances in their lives are caught in what I term a reactive mind state. That is, something difficult arises, something unpleasant arises, like anger, or something pleasant arises, like having your favorite food and it really tastes good. And either way, whether it's unpleasant or pleasant, the pleasant and unpleasant are like strings, and your mind is like the puppet on the end of those strings. And so you dance to the pleasant or unpleasantness without much choice. Your mind is controlled, your mind is informed, it's conditioned to the degree that you have no freedom of choice. You're simply reacting as those strings are pulling you of pleasant or unpleasant. But with the Dharma, with the Buddha's Four Noble Truths, starting with the first noble truth, that there is suffering, that there is this dukkha, you start to have choice right away. Immediately something changes in your life. Oh, so I have anger right now. Anger feels like this. So you turn your mindfulness to the experience, your inner experience of the anger, rather than acting it out or starting to judge yourself for having it in the first place or feeling sorry for yourself. You go, so this is anger. Wow, I can feel this really hurts. This is very unpleasant. So you're bearing it. You're seeing what it's truly like. And then you meet it with such compassion for yourself. Anger hurts. Anger creates more misery. You hold yourself with this kind of compassion. Now let's suppose it's somebody else's anger. In that same way, you see, wow, this person's really angry. They're acting it out towards me, but it's really not towards me, it's impersonal. It's anger that's in them. And again, you see the suffering in it and you hold it in compassion for them. When it's your own anger, there's so much more you can do, because in addition to being compassionate towards yourself, you can ground yourself in body awareness. You can feel that anger as a wave passing through you. You can feel it as pulsation or vibration. You can see where it's manifesting in the body. And then you can direct your attention to some other parts of the body. Let's suppose the anger is burning in your belly or racing in your heart. You direct the attention to the feet or to the hands or to a breath, so that you don't keep feeding the anger by paying more attention to it in this way of contracting into it. What makes the difficult emotion so difficult is not the initial unpleasantness of anger or envy or disappointment or anxiety, but our resistance to it, our wanting it to be some other way. And therefore we create a whole second level of discomfort, a whole second level of suffering around one of these difficult emotions. The Buddha referred to it as shooting yourself with a second arrow. And indeed, that is true. So you've gotten angry about something, and maybe it's really justified that you're angry. And then instead of going, oh, so I've got this anger, and oh, let's look how it's affected me, you go, and this isn't fair, and this isn't right, and this shouldn't be this way. This huge resistance builds in your mind. And that resistance contracts all of your attention into the anger. So you had a certain degree of difficulty, of discomfort, of suffering around the initial feeling of the anger. But now you have multiplied it by all of that resistance, all of that indignation, and made it much worse for yourself. Ironically, you've also made it much less likely that you will be effective in your response. So the anger, when it takes possession of you, we refer to it as when you take birth in your anger. I'm now an angry person and I'm justified in it. That narrows your scope of awareness. It makes you less likely to think clearly. It separates you from your intuition, which is there in your body. And when you're caught in your anger, you're shut out from other parts of your body, and you can't really feel intuitively what's the right way to respond. And also, when there's this contraction into, this clinging to, this identifying with the difficult emotion, you are so inclined to act from your impulses. You have an impulse to say something hateful or to do something that you will later regret. And it seems so real, so justified in that moment, so that not only have you created the suffering from the second arrow, now you create an additional act through speaking or action that will create even more suffering. And you're in what we term the samsaric wheel of suffering. And this can go on and on. The alternative, back to the mindfulness, back to the compassion, back to dropping into your body, feeling the anger in the body or whatever difficult emotion, finding other parts of the body, grounding the body in earth, letting earth support you, finding your breath, and reminding yourself that this is just a temporary mind state, this anger, and that it too will pass. And you can watch that it's always changing, that the anger is sometimes larger and sometimes less large. It's coming in these waves or these pulsations, as I described earlier, and you can see that it even moves where in the body that it manifests. You can watch the mind state of the anger. Is the mind racing? Is the mind having a lot of image? Is there some inner dialogue? And you start to see it as a phenomena that's arising due to these impersonal conditions. Whoa, when I get caught in a storm of anger, it's like getting caught in a rainstorm. I get wet. But I don't identify with that rainstorm and say, oh, I'm now a rainstorm when I get wet. So when you get wet with anger, you can just say, I'm now wet with anger. You don't have to identify with it. And just as you know to get in out of the rain or to protect yourself when you're in the rain, so you learn to get out of the anger or to protect yourself while the anger is going. And one last thing, being amused with yourself. making a joke about your anger, seeing some way that if this was a romantic comedy and you were angry, the audience would be loving it and identifying with you. Anything that breaks the seeming solidity of it is so helpful. And then at the very, very last is to remember your intention as to what really matters to you and say, I may be angry right now, but I choose to act from my deepest value, not from the values of this impulse of anger, this throbbing heat of anger, but from what really matters to me. I am going to act as the person that I truly am, not the distortion of this field of anger. I wish you all good search and exploration around your difficult emotions.